Not much is known about the Maroons, as this is something that you will never see within the annals of British history, the truth of which was swept under the carpet by Eurocentric historians who sought to propagate and promote white supremacy and the supremacy of the British Empire. But what most people of African descent scattered all across the globe should know is the fact that in places like Jamaica and Haiti, there were Africans who threw off the yoke of enslavement by defeating their slave masters. Which brings to light the story of the Maroons of Jamaica, who waged wars against and successfully defeated the British imperialists in what is historically known as the Great Maroon War. A war that went on for over 2 decades between the years of 1725 and 1746, and a war that embarrassed the British on the world stage as they were beaten left, right and center in every single battle they fought with the Maroons. In the 15 to 1600s, the Africans who were first brought to Jamaica by the Spaniards escaped and took refuge in secret Taino villages deep within the depths of the mountainous interior of the island. The Spaniards called these people the Cimarrones, a term which later evolved into just Maroons and was adopted by the British, who seized the island from the Spanish Empire in 1655. The British occupation of Jamaica led to one of the most heinous institutions of slavery in documented history, a multinational organization that was directly responsible for the enslavement of hundreds of thousands of Africans who were transported from the west coast of Africa. To give an idea of the odious nature in which these people were treated, one only has to look at the Jamaican slave owner named Willie Lynch and his infamous letter on the making of a slave, where he outlined to the slave owners of Virginia of how to break, how to breed, and how to exert ultimate control and dominance over their slaves. So as a result of their inhumane treatment and the psychological and physical trauma that came along with it, the slaves in Jamaica looked to the mountains, where they heard were villages where they could rid themselves of the punitive atrocities of the slave masters, who subjugated them without regard for their humanity. And as more and more slaves escaped their shackles, Maroon villages significantly increased in number. This is something that angered the colonists, who wanted to reclaim their runaway slaves, and so they sought the help of the British Army, thinking they could come and crush the Maroons, a mistake that most of them live to remember. This ignited the first altercation with the Maroons in 1725 that escalated into a full-blown war in 1728. At the height of this war, the people came to be led by a warrior clan of 4 brothers and 1 sister, the origins of whom is shrouded in mystery and skepticism, who are said to have been born in Africa and are descended from either the Ashanti or the Karamanti tribes of Ghana. The 4 brothers were Akompong, Kojo, Kwaho, and Johnny, and the lone sister was a warrior queen known as Nanny of the Maroons, who received the status of National Heroine of Jamaica in 1976 because of how she fought against the slave masters, raiding plantations and freeing enslaved Africans. The Maroons fought the British using guerrilla tactics, outwitting and outmaneuvering them every step along the way. Coupled with their knowledge of the terrain and a master strategy, it is now clearly obvious as to why the British lost so miserably. For while they marched in their big red coats as proud as a peacock, the Maroons became one with the forest, camouflaging themselves with leaves and blending in to look like trees. So while the British approach could be seen from miles away, The Maroons stood still like a seasoned predator, waiting to devour its prey. And by the time the British soldiers realized what was happening, half the battalion was already dead, and the rest had to run for their very lives. Hence, the hunter has now become the hunted. As a result of being brutalized battle after battle, the British finally relented and sought to negotiate a peace treaty in 1734. The Leeward Maroons in the western regions of the island, who were under the leadership of Cudjoe, were the first to sign the treaty in 1739, a betrayal of which the Jamaican people has never forgotten, and the main reason why Cudjoe, Akongpong, and Quaho are not hailed as national heroes of Jamaica today. The Windward Maroons, on the other hand, in the eastern part of the island, under the leadership of Queen Nanny with Quaho, carried on the fight, giving hope to the hopeless slaves who dreamt of justice, freedom, and peace. And so the war went on for 7 more years, but the burden was too great for Nanny alone to carry, as she was betrayed by her brother Quaho, who went and signed the treaty in 1746. Nanny lamented over the signing of this treaty, a majestic tragedy that still stands to this very day. A treaty that turned the Maroons into pawns of British imperialism, who henceforth used their warriors to subjugate the rebellions of slaves trying to fight for their freedom. The Maroons, being ardent warriors, were instrumental in putting down many slave rebellions and recaptured and killed many rebellion leaders like Taki and Jack Manson, otherwise called Three-Finger Jack, who decimated many British soldiers who tried to hunt him. It is said that Nanny secretly supported Jack Manson in his fight against the British, but could do little as she was bound by the treaty. This is one of the reasons why she is revered by all Jamaicans today, and why the other Maroons are resented by the Jamaicans of African descent, because with the signing and implementation of that treaty, they turned from being a symbol of hope into a symbol of oppression.